I don't expect the average black person to like me. I'm the furthest thing from likely to fit in with the methods and the motives of black protest tradition. The revolution was a disgrace. Plus, don't expect me to participate in any sit-ins where y'all sit and sing hymns written by slave traders that waded shin deep through buckets of our ancestors' blood like Amazing Grace. And since we're on the topic, another example of how I do not fit in as my ancestors would be insulted if I was reluctant to be clear that your black president spent his entire political career playing in my fucking face. I mean, we could all agree that he was elegant and charming and intelligent, but all those things seem to be relatively irrelevant unless being black means I have to pretend that Rumsfeld didn't ramp up AFRICOM to spread the fear of the viciousness of American military throughout Africa in the months leading up to the day that brother was sworn in. Unless being black means I have to pretend that he didn't turn out to be one of the most ruthless assassins this earth has ever heard of, well known throughout Africa and the Middle East for being addicted to using drone controllers to masturbate over mass murder. Unless being black means I have to pretend that he did something more notable in the Senate than introduce the Congo Relief Act, and that as president, he didn't immediately double down on that with Section 1502 of Dodd-Frank, banking on the SEC to consequently increase the number of black children being used as mineral slaves, the number of black women in Africa being kidnapped and raped, while watching hundreds of thousands of black people being murdered or displaced in order to facilitate the unfathomable amount of Central African minerals being excavated without a trace. And of course, unless being black means I have to pretend that the major outcome from assassinating Gaddafi wasn't the reestablishment of the West African chattel slave trade with an unencumbered tailwind. And if I couldn't tell that my love for black people was more vigilant than most before that, I could certainly tell when y'all started co-signing Joe Biden. And I was like, yo, that man spent his entire political career weaponizing the 13th Amendment.
Yes.
At least since the 80s, his whole legacy has been about writing legislation aimed at amplifying black mass incarceration. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with us? Y'all remember when he sat there and wrote, a poor black boy in the hood with 5 grams of rocks in his pocket should be sentenced equivalent to a white man with a whole half a brick of cocaine when he drafted that Lynn-biased drug bill for Ronald Reagan.
Please go read it.
That man facilitated every federal crime bill in my fucking lifetime. But I guess black cognitive dissonance means we all have to agree to surrender our self-respect, pride, and common sense. And picture me giving a fuck about whether or not the United States continues to give weapons and money for the Ukraine's defense when my ancestors slaved for hundreds of years to build this nation, and without a second thought, they gave hundreds of billions of dollars that should have been spent on reparations for their decades-old Ukrainian liberation project. And I bet you was still some black people watching the news, confused, about to lose everything and thinking still, say less. Please continue to give these people on the other side of the globe more of our tax dollars that you snatched out of our paycheck. And I'm like, all right, bet. So we just gonna pretend that the Ukraine wasn't already ruled by Russia several times in history. And we just gonna pretend that when Russia invaded the Ukraine this last time, the Ukrainians weren't using racial slurs against our young black students and black college professors and snatching them off the escape trains and beating them to the back of the evacuation line. But I guess that's just how soon we forget. And Dr. Clark already taught our love thirsty asses time and time again that black people ain't got no friends. And based on my study of history, as it relates to us, every US president has been evil. And you can check the archives and you'll find that not a single one prioritized anybody outside of their immediate circle. And that even goes for the white supporters that they purport to love. So you know that not a single one ever gave a solitary fuck about black people. So however y'all feel.